Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023.
Yeah.
We're your hosts on this beautiful journey,
Yeah.
and we're back. We took a week off because of the eclipse.
And no other reason.
The moon got in the way of the sun, and it got in the way of us talking about the movie from 2023, Inspector Sun.
Yeah. That's why.
Why'd we start this?
Uh because 2023 was a goofy year for movies. You got you got so many.
Uh-huh.
You got 65.
Sure.
You got 80 for Brady.
Uh-huh.
You got Tetris.
Yeah.
You got that why can't I remember his name? George Foreman. You got a movie about him.
Uh-huh.
You got some quirky choices,
Yeah.
and we're gonna talk about them all.
Do you think now that this is our 30th episode, meaning this show has existed for at least 30 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
minus the breaks that we've taken,
Mm-hmm.
plus minus divided? We've started a while ago.
Yup.
Do you think we'll ever stop doing the why we started this podcast?
Absolutely not.
Cool.
How else are we going to talk about 65 in every single episode?
I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. It's our favorite movie.
It's our movie. If you like this podcast, you could please consider rating and reviewing us and or supporting us on Patreon and following us on Instagram. All those things are very helpful. We appreciate them. This episode,
Yeah.
long awaited, long requested, one that people for sure know about,
Uh-huh.
Inspector Sun and the Curse of the Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for like the two of you who don't know, because we all know what it's about, the synopsis is Inspector Sun boards a seemingly normal plane for a much-needed vacation, but when an enigmatic millionaire receives a threat on his life, Sun is back on the case. Trapped in a web of lies, Sun must find the culprit before it's too late. I got some issues off the bat.
Okay.
This is from IMDb.
Uh-huh.
It's not accurate.
Is it not?
Plot. No, Inspector Sun, as we all know,
Uh-huh.
was actually fired.
Oh, yeah.
On vacation.
That's yeah.
Anyway, we'll
mean-
get there.
He gets fired, but then he goes on vacation.
I guess so. I guess that would be a reason why you would need a vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm unemployed. Let's spend a bunch of money, travel the world.
Yeah, but it's fine because it's also 1934.
Yeah.
We'll also get there. What were your first impressions when you heard about this classic piece of cinema?
It's about time. I think we were all waiting for it.
Yeah.
No, my first impression was, is this a sequel?
Yeah.
Because,
Because it's called Inspector Sun and the Curse of the Black Widow,
yes.
which is a sequel title.
Yeah, it leads me to believe, like, there was an Inspector Sun movie,
Yeah.
and now there's Inspector Sun
Part
and
2.
the Curse of the Black Widow. That was my first impression.
Hmm.
I think we also heard about it pretty late into the year of 2023, and so we were like,
Well, I remember I remember exactly where I was the moment I found out about Inspector Sun. It was we went to see a movie, could not tell you which one it was, but we were in theaters and we were watching the trailers like, yep, that's on our list, that's on our list. And then this one came up and we were like, sorry? What? And it was it's not my favorite trailer. It's a goofy trailer.
yeah,
And if you watch it without context in a theater like we did,
uh-huh,
it makes you go, huh? And so my first impression was, huh?
sure.
And then we tried to find out anything else about it, and it was like, good luck. Um, so yeah, mostly confusion as my first impression,
Yeah.
and then excitement that it's on the list.
And let's get this out of the way right now.
Okay.
It's a movie about bugs.
It is a movie about bugs.
Inspector Sun's a spider.
Inspector Sun is a spider, and it's 1934, and he just got fired.
Yeah.
These are the plot points, if you don't know about this movie, that have become clear just from us talking about it.
Yep.
I think it's your turn to talk about the trailer.
The trailer.
Yeah.
We're still doing that. 30 episodes in.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna question everything we do because we're 30 episodes in.
Cool.
That's like a full month. It's an episode a day. It's like a month.
Yeah.
It's like a month of
Mhm.
people could watch every day, and it'd take them a month. Why are we talking about the trailer?
Because it's 30 episodes in.
That's a great. Yep. So the spider introduces himself as Inspector Sun, world famous detective, and does some karate.
Yep.
It cuts to a seaplane boarding area where humans tower over bugs boarding a plane. One spider tells someone to be careful with their luggage. His wife, a black widow spider, says, "Relax, sweetie, it's our honeymoon." A fly is collecting tickets from passengers and talks to Mr. Gil T, who corrects him on his name's pronunciation, and it's Gil Tay. The plane takes off, the fly opens two huge double doors into a dance hall area, and there's a lot of music from the band on stage. Inspector Sun asks, "Who is she?" when he spots the Black Widow Arabella Killtop with her new husband, Dr. Spindlethorpe. Sun introduces himself to the couple, and Dr. Spindlethorpe says he's the wealthiest bug on board and believes his life is in danger. Sun doesn't believe him, saying he has an overactive imagination and a dangerous wife. The plane hits turbulence, there's lightning outside, and brief shots of lights flickering and a mysterious creature moving around the plane. A voice says, "Son, we need you. There's been a murder." And the fly captain dramatically gasps as Dr. Spindlethorpe's body is revealed. Sun says, "We're not looking for one killer, but two, and there's shots of passengers looking scared." Sun says, "Maybe three," as a scary-looking bug drops down from the ceiling into the dance hall. He says, "Do I hear four?" to the alarmed captain. A younger voice, Janie, says, "Someone clearly doesn't want you looking into this Bugsy case," as Sun is carried away by ants towards their queen. Sun is shown being arrested and thrown out of a plane along with Arabella and Janie. There's lots of chaotic shots of bugs fighting, dancing, Arabella saying, "Save me, Sun," before being carried away by the scary bugs from earlier. Sun swings from webs over luggage, landing in front of a group of ants while saying, "Stop, in the name of the law," before the Inspector Sun title card comes up. Dr. Spindlethorpe briefly comes back saying, "I am on my honeymoon," and making out with his wife while Sun says, "You have a little something right there on your..." Never mind.
It's messy. It's there's both a lot going on and also not that much.
I like that they reveal
Everything.
that the character dies
Yeah.
in the trailer,
Mhm.
and they show the dead body. This is a kids movie.
Yeah.
This is an animated kids movie.
Mhm. In case you're wondering who this is for, it's for the young detectives. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It just like shows you everyone. It's a lot of stuff that like just out of context you're like, "Huh?" And
And in context, you're like,
hmm. It's not a great trailer just for story clarity.
yeah.
You get the thing of like, cool, this is like a Agatha Christie situation, and then anything outside of that, it's just images on a screen that means nothing. Which really added to the whole vibe of I think this is a sequel. And
Yeah.
it's not. It's not.
It's not.
It's not. But it
Honestly.
feels like it. Yeah. The movie,
Mm-hmm.
there's a cast.
There is a cast.
We should say that this is from Spain. So this movie was originally not in English. So this is the cast for the English version.
'Cause we don't care about the Spaniards.
As a general rule, sure.
Yep.
Yeah. We got Ronnie Chang as Inspector Sun.
Mm-hmm.
We got Emily Claymore
Sure.
as Janie. We got Jennifer Childs Greer as Arabella Killtop. We got Richard Orlo as the Red Locust and Mr. Scarab.
Mm.
We got Ian Batchelor as Captain Skeleton. Did you know his name was Captain Skeleton?
I sure didn't.
I didn't either. We got Scott Greer as Dr. Bugsy Spindlethorpe. We got Jeanette Grace Gongoletsky, so sorry, as the Ant Queen and Lady Vachu. We got Paul Lewis Miller as Mr. Guilty, and these are all from Wikipedia. Some of these are not accurate for the English version, at least. I knew I was talking about a specific thing when I wrote this, and I don't quite. Oh, yeah, it says like the Mantis Assassin, or it doesn't like. It doesn't give accurate descriptions for what these characters actually are. Like, it says Inspector Sun is a shy and intelligent spider. He's not shy.
He's not intelligent.
Or intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It calls Arabella Killtop Bugsy's former wife. That's a widow. um yeah, there's let's just give you a plot overview.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
there is
with the
one.
cast though, Ronnie Chang is the only person that like is even remotely known.
The only celebrity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah.
Which good on him.
Mm-hmm.
Take the check.
Yeah. This we'll get into it later, but like this animation distribution company is on the upswing and they're getting bigger names
They
for
did some cat movie, right?
yeah, it's we'll get there. It's also a 2023 movie, so we will have to watch it.
Yes.
The plot?
Plot. Murder.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
It's okay, so to also add to this feels like a sequel. It starts out with Inspector Sun, and he's in Shanghai,
1930.
1934.
Let's set the scene.
It's 1934, and you're a spider detective in Shanghai.
And it's not bug Shanghai. It's Shanghai. There are humans in this,
Yeah.
and they talk
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
yeah,
It could have easily been just
a bug version of stuff.
a bug world.
Yeah, but it's bugs living in the actual canonical 1934.
Yeah.
A solid year. Anyway, Inspector Sun is there. He is chasing after his nemesis, the Red Locust, who he's been hot on his tail for time.
Yeah, and
And-
Red Locust is bug Nazi.
Yeah, pretty much. He is trying to build up his swarm. You find out throughout the movie that Inspector Sun has been like basically trying to take down this criminal organization. So he's been arresting all of the swarm, and so the Locust doesn't have access to that. So he's trying to make more, and he's in a firework factory to do that for some reason.
Yeah.
So you see like cops outside of the firework factory, and they're like, "All right, boys, it's gonna happen. We know he's in there. We got a plan to get him. Let's just hope Inspector Sun doesn't show up." And then Janie, a child spider,
Uh-huh.
is like, "Hey, mister."
Inspector Sun's great.
Yeah, where's Inspector Sun? And immediately I am annoyed by this child spider.
Mm-hmm.
And then Inspector Sun descends from the sky because he rode a seagull to get there.
Uh-huh.
That actually comes back later.
For some reason.
For some reason, it's a callback. So Inspector Sun crashes the party, and they're like, "You." He's like, I'm the best detective," and they're like, "No, you're just lucky.
Yeah.
You don't actually know anything." And then he's like, "Well, I'll take him down. I'll prove it to you or something." And then he goes inside and hijinks ensue and Locust lets himself gets arrested,
But
basically.
but Inspector Sun still manages, the spider in a human world manages to set off the fireworks and burn down an entire human building.
Yeah. And then the spider police are mad at him for that. And he's like, "But I got the guy. Aren't you gonna give me a promotion for that?" And they're like, "No, you cost millions in damages
Yeah.
in real 1934. You're fired. Turn in your badge and gun."
Yeah.
Also, his uncle is the police chief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the other thing that makes this feel like a sequel, besides like the whole backstory between Sun and the Red Locust, is Inspector Sun is missing a leg.
Well, yeah, it's established like real early on. Inspector Sun lost a leg
to Red Locust,
to Red Locust,
and that's his signature.
and he has a dead wife
Yeah,
because he was hunting down.
he got too close. So
Like
the
they
Red
gave
Locust,
this character such a tragic backstory,
they
and
killed
he's
his.
just this dummy. He's just an idiot.
He really is. Like I was, you get the plot set up of like this guy's an idiot. He's not really a detective. He's just lucky.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, okay, so he's gonna like experience growth through this movie. He's
No,
gonna show his true skills." That never
he
happens.
just kind of makes like a couple of friends, and that's
Yeah, he keeps saying because he's a huntsman spider. He keeps saying a huntsman spider hunts alone,
yeah.
and then Janie wants to be his sidekick, and he keeps saying that to her, which also I would not want her to tag along. She sucks. Um, to me personally, I think she's the worst part of it.
Oh, I didn't think she was that bad.
It's just the voice, and I really didn't like the character design because she, spider child, whatever, that's fine. But she has like these tufts of hair like that are just on top of her head, and I was so distracted by them the entire time. Like,
Mm.
why do that?
Yeah, it did not bother me.
It did. I mean, many things about this movie didn't sit well, but Janie was one of them. So anyway, he gets fired. He arrests Red Locust, and he's like, "Yay, another one for Inspector Sun." And then he's supposed to go to New York, I think.
He's
then
he's gonna take a vacation to New York.
and then Janie is like, "I'm your biggest fan. I want to work with you. I like please take me on as an apprentice." She bothers him to the point of he loses or like he misses his plane. So then he has to board this other plane and his friend, Mr. Scarab, who he knew from back in the day,
Is-
the war? I think
yeah.
the war. Because again, it's 1934.
I think it is the war. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think like they established that like Sun
He said like
like ruined a whole platoon.
he said he rescued my platoon twice after getting us captured twice.
Yeah.
Um so Mr. Scarab is the head of security for this plane and he's like, "Come on, buddy. Like let's get you on board. You can come on this plane basically." And then the Captain Skeleton,
Sure, is a fly.
who's a fly.
Okay. So whatever you're picturing for Captain Skeleton, take that image, throw it out. That's not what he looks like.
Captain Skeleton is a sick name.
Yeah, this guy is just like an annoying little dude.
It's a fly.
He's real small. He's got like an 30s aviator outfit.
Yeah.
He
Does
has
have
like
a nose.
he has a nose. What is the what's the accent? 'Cause he's just like, say,
Oh,
Inspector
yeah.
Sun.
Transatlantic.
Yeah, transatlantic.
Yeah.
He's got that accent. He's this
Mhm.
little fly. He does not. He looks like Captain Fly.
I
not
yeah.
Captain Skeleton.
I feel like if in the live action remake of Inspector Sun,
Sure.
he would be played by someone like a Paul Giamatti vibe or like physically
Yeah.
just like a guy,
Hmm.
just a guy. Uh Captain Skeleton doesn't want Inspector Sun on the plane for reasons.
It's because Captain Skeleton is a smuggler,
Yeah,
smuggling things.
don't ask what things because they
It's illegal
yeah,
things.
it doesn't matter. The Spindlethorpe gets killed. Uh, he worked for Red Locust, so then it all comes back.
Spindlethorpe, Dr. Spindlethorpe,
Hmm.
Spider, has a doctorate,
Hmm.
was making a chemical compound for Red Locust.
Hmm.
What?
It's 1934.
Here's how this is acceptable.
Okay.
If it's just a bug world,
Yeah.
that's fine to me.
Hmm.
This is a real human world, and apparently there's also sentient bugs.
Yeah.
I'll move past the sentient bugs.
Hmm.
Most of what they're doing in this is basically riding off of the coattails of what humans do. The planes that they're using are human planes that
Yeah,
they just like basically,
it's a seaplane, and then there's like the bug entrance to the seaplane.
yeah. And like they establish later on that Captain Skeleton, the pilot in the bug community,
Hmm.
doesn't actually have control over the plane unless he goes into the human cockpit and annoys the human pilot to fly in the way that he wants.
So they that was a joke that I thought was kind of funny. Was like, uh, someone I think it's like things are chaotic, and Inspector Sun is like, "Who's even flying this thing?" or something like that, and the pilot is
Yeah.
like, "Well, I can do it. I'm the pilot." And Inspector Sun is like, "I thought that was like an honorary title they
Hmm.
gave you,
Yeah, and
because he
that's a
clearly
funny joke.
doesn't do anything."
That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's still like basically everything they're doing, there's like they establish is just like they can only exist with what the humans do.
Right.
But then Dr. Spindlethorpe just makes his own chemical compound. And big spoiler of what the chemical compound is. It turns any bug into the ultimate bug.
There's bug eugenics in this
Yeah.
movie.
It's
In this children's murder mystery.
yeah.
Are
It's
you
just
on board? It's 1934.
Shanghai.
Picture this.
Like this is like a spider is making something like this is like the first like the first and only thing that like the bugs are actually doing themselves and
Mhm.
will impact humans
Right.
because it will turn all bugs into killer eugenic supremacy bugs.
Yeah.
It's just it's a weird like I know it's a kids movie.
It's a weird logic jump for
It's a weird
the
like
universe.
yeah.
Yeah. If they don't have bug planes, but they do have bug scientists and bug doctorates,
Mhm.
then yeah, it can make you think a little too hard about how this world works.
But it's 1934 Shanghai.
We're on a plane to San Francisco. Not just any plane, a seaplane,
Mhm.
which also matters. The dude gets killed. They're like, it's his wife.
Dude, he gets killed, and then they find him strung up on a web, and like, they just fully show the dead body. And I know it's a cartoon spider, but it's still like this is a
Again, it's a kids
kids
movie.
movie, and it's like we're bringing back Don Bluth level stuff with this. It's just Don Bluth was actually a good. His movies were also good written and
Yeah,
had
there
actual
was emotion behind
things
it.
that mattered. Yeah,
Yeah.
but this was just like it was like kind of a horror, like a bad horror film for
Yeah.
kids.
It's sudden like it they show the body and then like also Janie snuck onto the plane.
Yeah.
So she's there too. So like Inspector Sun is like, that's crazy. That guy died. Anyway. And then Janie is like, no, you guys interrupted him. He was about to show you all of these clues. And then starts going into like the forensic breakdown of this crime scene in this
Yeah.
children's movie, where it's like there's a bite on his neck here, he there's acid on the floor here, there's all of this stuff,
Hmm.
and like we need to measure if the wound on his neck matches the wound that his wife would inflict, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Then the dead body turns out it's been emptied, so it's hollow on the inside, and they show the body split open in two.
Yeah.
And then ants are like they take the body and you just see like half of a body get taken away.
The ants are like the cleanup crew and also like the eyes and ears of the plane. So like the pilot
Yeah.
is smuggling stuff, he's doing illegal things, but then also has all of these ants as basically an intelligence network.
Yeah.
And then the queen, they have like an understanding between them. So then, so Inspector Sun is like, I need to compare that piece of that man's body to this wound I have on my arm where the Black Widow bit me. It doesn't matter, that happened.
Yeah.
And then the queen just eats the body
Mhm.
in front of him. She's like, "Oh, this piece of evidence, chomp."
Yeah.
It didn't match. He didn't do it.
Yeah, it's weirdly gruesome in
It's
a
not,
way that like
yeah, it's not graphic, but it is like there were several times where we were like, "This is a kids movie." It just feels like slightly, slightly icky in a way that I can't
yeah.
describe.
Well,
Like,
that's what I'm saying, like a bad horror film
yeah,
of just like they do the gruesome deaths that don't actually matter. It doesn't really make it scary. It's just like the effect of doing a gruesome gimmicky death.
I think,
But like it's that thing for a kids movie because like
yeah,
good horror films, great story, like plot written well,
yeah,
it all like ties in together. But then the bad ones, just death.
yeah,
It's just death.
yeah,
And this one feels like there's just weird deaths and a terrible thing
right.
happening in the background.
Yeah, I think that is what makes me uncomfortable about this being a kids movie is like the the fact that it's like it's it's kind of a sloppy movie
Yeah.
in several aspects, which we can get to in a bit. But just it feels so formulaic. Again, we know this is a kids movie, but like it's not nuanced or anything, whatever. But the fact that this is like this is the formula you went with, and it's so like it's like you went with murder for children and didn't like it. I cannot think of a good word to describe it. Crass? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choice. Again, I know we've talked about it in episodes before, Don Bluth, and like we should traumatize kids. This isn't traumatizing. It's just like a choice.
Yeah, it's a weird choice.
Yeah.
I will say the ant scene where Inspector Sun is talking to the ants,
Mm-hmm.
like the ant queen, all the ants are there. That was like the one scene that actually like made me chuckle
Mm-hmm.
was because the ant queen uh was like, "Oh yeah, we made a mistake. Like we missed out.
Some ants have been going missing.
Some ants have been going
Yeah.
missing. Uh and like there was a piece of information that they didn't know." And
She
it's
said
and
like we turned our back for 1 second or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and then the camera cuts to a giant like it's just hundreds and hundreds of ants and then
Mhm.
it zooms into one and the one ant is just like again I said I was sorry guys. How many times are you going to bring this up? And then the queen was like I wasn't looking at anybody specific. That was funny to
Yeah.
me and that was sort of the one funny
Yeah.
part.
There were parts that I laughed at, but more of just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Um, there, there's some clunky writing. Also like this movie has been translated, so like the words don't always match the mouth movements. I get that. There were some parts where that was like more obvious than others. The trailer especially, there are lots of times where it's just like a voiceover from a character and you don't see their face at all, and it's just trying to get
Yeah.
the information out in the language that it needs to be out in. Um, Parts in the trailer were a little goofy like that. Some of the writing was clunky with like uh also with Inspector Sun introducing himself to the Black Widow and Dr. Spindlethorpe, then Dr. Spindlethorpe literally says, like it has in the trailer, "I'm the wealthiest bug on this plane." It just gives you that information that like a regular detective thing, like that character wouldn't say it. It would be like later on, it'd be like, well, he's of course he's a target. He's the wealthiest bug on this plane,
Yeah.
like that. If they're gonna share it like that, Janie, when you're finding out about her and she's trying to uh tell Inspector Sun how big of a fan that she is, and like she says um that the Red Locust killed her entire family, and she's just like, I don't have anyone anymore. So now I have you.
Yeah.
Let me on this plane. It was real goofy.
Yeah.
And she says that twice, like to Inspector Sun and then also to the Black Widow, where she's like, again, I'm an orphan spider. I just want to clarify that. Um, yeah. And then there's also just a surprising amount of insect information that's included in this movie, where they have the Black Widow spider. She This is her 13th husband. And then they say like lucky guy. And then they're like, so he dies, and then they're like, well, obviously it was the Black Widow spider. Like, what did he expect to happen?
Yeah.
And then they're like, actually, Black Widows only kill their mates in 60% of relationships, so she might not have done it. And then, and then Janie is a jumping spider, and she gives some information about like, well, I'm a jumping spider, so I do these things and blah blah blah. And then the huntsman spider always hunts alone, which is like not really a fact, but they give they have several jokes or just statements that are just like, I guess that is based on real bugs. Sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was a fun and goofy thing that kept happening during the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the plot. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
give a quick rundown.
Please.
The eugenics start eugenicsing,
Mm-hmm.
start converting bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a fight. There's a bunch of evil superior bugs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a queen evil superior bug that they make.
Yeah. She is okay, so there was Mr. Guilty,
Yeah,
and that was just like a throwaway joke. The guy doesn't really show up and stuff. And then there was like Mrs. Virtue or something like that.
sure.
And she has like babies in a little baby stroller that she carries around with her. Turns out the babies are fake. Mrs. Virtue is the one of the killers, and the other one is Thread Locust, who has been on the plane the whole time.
Yeah.
So she takes the super soldier serum
Yep.
that turns her into
The queen.
the ultimate bug, Lady Vachu.
Yeah.
Next. Anyway.
Yeah. So then there's a big fight, basically like an airplane style fight, like a dog fight in the air, but with bugs. They ride the seagull again as the callback. They kill the
Lady Vachu.
Lady Vachu queen.
Mm-hmm.
They get her antenna, and then they break the antenna in half, and then all of the bugs who have been converted magically go back to what they were before.
Yeah, so that was okay. So the bug transformation process was like they they don't kill the bugs
They
because they come back.
cocoon them.
Yeah, but they put them to sleep and they cocoon them. So then there's all these like bug cocoons around the plane, and then everyone is transformed into these little mini hyper things, and then yeah, Inspector Sun snaps the antenna, and then it's poof, and everyone turns back to their regular forms.
Yeah. And then they're all friends, and then they're like, let's go on an adventure together in the
Yeah.
plane. And then Captain Skeleton is like, I'll fly, and everyone laughs.
Yeah.
That's all I know because this is a special movie in that it's the first movie that we've watched for this podcast
Mhm.
from 2023 movies that I have fallen asleep in.
Yeah, it's
So I mean, it's a good
that's
movie.
basically you didn't miss much. Um, they yeah, so I guess the growth that Inspector Sun goes through is um he no longer hunts alone. Like he discovered the power of friendship. Um, 'Cause like he lost his wife because of his work and she is dead. R.I.P. Mrs. Sun. And he will be missed. And then Janie tags along. Um, they have another weird moment where he's like, "I work alone, kid," and then she gets sad and goes away, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm sorry." And then she comes back, and they defeat Red Locust together, and then everyone is like, "Wow, I guess we did it, gang, together, all of us, the power of friendship." And it's like, it's the Black Widow, it's uh Captain Skeleton, it's Inspector Sun and Janie, and then like all of the ants as like group high five.
Hmm.
We did it, gang. And then someone comes up with a letter to Inspector Sun and he's like, "We need you in Egypt."
Hmm.
And then they're like, "Well, we've never been to Egypt before. Let's go, gang, back on this plane."
Yeah.
And then they're now just like it's Inspector Sun and 1,000 of his closest friends just using their powers of friendship to
Yeah.
stop criminals.
Here's a question.
Okay,
Let me ask you.
yeah.
How did they know Inspector Sun was in San Francisco when he was supposed to be in New York?
It was all set up. Yeah.
Conspiracy.
Oh, the other thing, Mr. Scarab was a bad guy.
Mr. Scarab was bad,
His
but
his friend
that
betrayed him.
that reveal happened while I was asleep.
Yeah.
So I was awake.
Hmm.
Mr. Scarab was around. I went to bed. I woke back up during the movie,
Uh-huh.
and then nothing about Mr. Scarab until a post-credit scene
Hmm.
where he was falling out of the sky
Yeah.
because I'm guessing he got thrown out of a plane.
Yeah, so they when Inspector Sun has that weird joke of like, we're looking for two killers or three or four. Um, so there's a reveal that like Scarab intentionally got Sun on the plane or was like he wasn't just being a nice dude to his friend. He knew that Sun would mess up and bring attention on himself and then would also like he was hoping that he would mess up the case because he planned on killing what's his face the doctor dude so that he could get his super serum or like his treasure, which he said was on the plane.
Mm.
Um, so I think he was the Scarab was the one to send the ransom note. Um, and then uh, the the doctor was like, okay, so did you see the assassin bug? Were you awake for that?
Yeah, I saw some of the assassin bug.
So the dude hired an assassin bug to protect his wife, the Black Widow,
Hmm.
because she was his treasure. And also this dead spider loved his wife.
I
And
think that's all we need to know.
yeah. And then he also felt bad about making eugenics for, for the red
It's good
locust.
that he felt bad.
Yeah.
He was bummed.
Yeah. So he was like,
Ah, shoot.
yeah,
I've done it.
if
I've accidentally.
if anything happens to me, then you need to get this little orb to Inspector Sun. He'll know what to do. And the orb had the super serum inside of it. So then there was a whole convoluted thing of like the scarab wanted the treasure and he didn't know what the treasure was, so he like ransacked their room and a bunch of other stuff and then Mrs. Virtue or whatever like swapped out web orbs so that Sun got an empty one and then she drank the super serum and turned into to Nasty Lady. And then Scarab was like, Janie and the Black Widow know too much. And he was going to throw both of them out of the plane.
Hmm.
and then they managed to escape, and then Scarab was thrown out of the plane.
Gotcha.
So then for the rest of the movie, he's just falling.
Yeah.
And then uh that post-credit scene happens where he remembers that he has wings and he stops himself before hitting the water.
Yeah.
So Inspector Sun 2, he might show up again.
I hope the second one is just called Inspector Sun, so it's really confusing. I think we're good to go to move to production facts.
You think we've talked a little too much about this children's movie
I
plot?
think we've talked about it way too much.
Yeah, there's much to discuss.
So let's get
Action fact.
through this.
Okay. So this was released theatrically in Spain December 28th, 2022 with a US
2022, but
with
what
with
but
with
but
with a US release October 27th, 2023.
whew,
Ooh. We almost unnecessarily talked about Inspector Sun. That would have been embarrassing.
for sure.
Yeah. It's got an hour and 28-minute runtime and it's rated PG. It's got an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes
That's ridiculous.
with a 50% audience score.
That's better.
And the Spanish film magazine Fotogramas rated it 4 out of 5 stars.
Was it a different movie when in Spanish?
No.
All right.
So the New York Times says, but while sometimes grating, the film is always appealing with pleasing details down to its Art Deco end titles. I hope they make a sequel and just adapt a Christie story outright, perhaps Spider's Web. Yeah, it's an Agatha Christie thing, like very Hercule Poirot inspired. I don't know. That's probably not gonna happen with Inspector Sun, but could be fun. So then another thing that I found is from Peter Hammond for Deadline. So this script was in this competition that I think I have later on in notes more about. But they were talking about the award. He's talking about the awards for that competition. He says at the awards ceremony, Rothman and I both discovered we had put Inspector Sun as the clear #1 choice, and it went on to win a rare feat in this competition for an animated film script. Yet there was no question, at least from my standpoint, that this was the only one I could clearly see coming to fruition as a feature film. It just popped off the page. Now, nearly 8 years later, it appears it was the right call. I predicted it was so good it could possibly go into production tomorrow. Well, as all things in the movie business, it just took a little longer. I would love to know if anything changed in the 8 years that it took for this movie to be made, for it to what specifically happened
Yeah.
that made it pop off the page.
Yeah, 'cause it's bad.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The budget for it, I could not find a specific number, but according to Bleeding Cool, this is from, I believe, I don't remember if this is from the director or from one of the animators, but there's a quote that I found that says, "It is easy to underestimate the amount of money that you have and the thing you're going to come up with everything." One of the first things we did on Inspector Sun was to limit the movie's scope. That's why we have 3 sets basically in the first act. Everything takes place in the second act, which is the longest, takes place in the seaplane, a controlled environment. It's almost like a studio movie with a few locations. The third act was San Francisco. Those 3 locations are the way to contain the budget so you can go overboard and then start spending too much. Also, the number of the characters you want to limit them. It looks like there are a lot of characters in the movie, but we only have 45, which may sound like a lot. Trust me, it is not enough. We changed colors, and some of them were replicated and blown. Wow, I cannot. We changed colors. Some of them we replicated and blown them up.
We made them bigger.
Made them bigger. We managed to get into a crowded environment with many characters, which we thought was a good thing. This was also a movie that was partially funded by an Epic Mega Grant from Epic Games. I don't know how much exactly that was, but they were getting funding from various sources. This is a fairly independent movie.
Do we think it was successful though?
So that's a great question. It at the international box office, the number that I found was $2.2 million, which not a lot, but
No, it's not.
People keep talking about this distribution company as like they're on the up and up. They're doing successful things.
Mm,
Um, so like maybe I don't know if it's necessarily profitable. Um, and also people haven't really heard about it, so it's hard to measure the success of this movie.
yeah.
I'm gonna say it broke even. That's my guess. Anyway, the production timeline is that in 2013, The Inspector's Son screenplay won the Samuel Goldwyn Writing Award and $15,000. Um, that was that award that the Deadline article was talking about from Pete Hammond.
Mm.
Um, so 2013, it won an award. Everyone said, this is great, it should go into production. And then I could not find anything about how long that took, all that good stuff. And then it was released in 2022. So it was a journey. They got there. Um, it was nominated for Best Animated Film for the Cinema Writers Circle Awards, Spain, and the Goya Awards. So it's got some attention.
Did we watch the wrong movie?
Why?
Because, like, how is it doing all of this?
Oh, like it's got some decent stats, but the movie is like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a great question. Um, I don't think we did. Yeah. And then the character design inspirations. This is from a article from Cartoon Brew. Inspector Sun, they said, think Hercule Poirot mixed with Frank Durbin of Naked Gun and a 1930s detective who has been sold to the public as a detective genius to cover up his messy mistakes, and he started to believe his own hype.
How
Yes, that's accurate.
dare they?
How dare they?
How dare they compare Inspector's Son
Mm-hmm.
to Hercule Poirot and Frank Drebin?
Yeah.
How dare they?
He also, his original character design had 4 eyes, but they thought that was too much.
Yeah, that's what would have overdid it. That would have been too much for sure.
Um, the Arabella, the Black Widow spider, is based off of a 1920s femme fatale and also loosely based off of Eva Green and Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. Captain Skeleton, according to Max Kostenko, is he said, first I worked on a fly. It was quite difficult since a fly has huge eyes and neither a nose nor a mouth, so it was necessary to come up with something to make the hero look cute but not lose the appearance of a fly. While studying photographs of flies, I noticed that instead of a nose, they have a certain feature resembling a nose in shape, so I decided to simplify the structure and transform it into a nose more like the nose of an animal. I hope entomologists will forgive me. So he knows what he did. um and then this is distributed by LA-based independent studio Viva Kids, which is growing. So The Incredible Maurice is that 2023 cat movie that we will have to talk about. They also have released 2023 Zombies Town or Zombie Town, which
Oh, weird, yeah.
has Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase.
Hmm.
So we're gonna talk about that too. It seems like they are like, yeah, independent studio focusing on children's entertainment, family entertainment.
I
Uh,
don't trust it.
they, this, gotta be honest, this quality level across the board seems to be wherever they're at, which,
Yeah.
like, animation is difficult. I'm not, so I'm not super impressed, but also, like, I respect trying to make independent stuff just as a baseline. That's a
Sure.
thing that I'm like, yeah, cool. The tagline for this movie is one of them is guilty,
Hmm.
which I think that and it's right up there with They Clone Tyrone in terms of my favorite movie taglines that we've covered.
Is it?
They Clone Tyrone, damn. This one of them is guilty. Short, sweet, to the point. Makes you interested.
I think the only way it could have been better was there was a murder.
One of them is guilty.
One of them's guilty now. I don't know. I feel like they could have done one of them as guilty, maybe two.
Or three.
Like that even, like
Yeah.
at least relates to something that happens.
Give it a little something something.
Just one of them's guilty?
Yeah. Or something about having a web of lies. Like they even say that in the synopsis of the movie.
That's I'm people aren't gonna understand that one because I don't know what that means.
It means that one of them is guilty.
Oh, see that I get. That one I understand.
I was looking at the IMDb stuff about this movie, and it says like under the goofs section,
Yeah.
it's like uh the there's a horn or a saxophone that can be heard in the soundtrack of this movie, but there's no horn/saxophone player on stage. And it's just like, that's your goof from this movie.
Because that's serious. That's something that you gotta really take serious. I mean, that's not a goof. That's like, whew,
Oh boy.
movie canceled.
Should we get to our rating?
Our rating. We rate out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out is 4. 0 out of 4 is, oh no.
No.
Terrible, terrible. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
1 out of 4 is it was a movie. 2 out of 4 is well made. 3 is enjoyable and kind of technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. Clearly, you know what we think of this movie. We're giving it a 4 all the way. Let's go,
Second time.
baby. No, I gave it a 1.
I did too. I think number one, you fell asleep during this movie. That says something,
Mm-hmm.
either about ourselves or about the quality of Mr. Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I feel like this is the definition of it was a movie. We watched it. That's about
Yeah, I think this is probably the basis of it was a movie.
yeah. This is a true one.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you want something in the background that you can kind of make fun of,
Watch something else, honestly. I don't think this is worth it.
no.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of talking about Inspector Sun. We typically talk about something else that we've watched.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't watched another movie that isn't for this podcast.
That's true.
So I'm just gonna say, we're just gonna use this time to talk about how on April 27th we'll be in Indianapolis at Indie PopCon
Mm-hmm.
doing a live studio
We're
recording,
doing a live podcast
live
episode.
podcast of this,
Yeah.
where we will be talking about 2023's hit movie Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh,
Pooh.
Blood and Honey.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
boy,
boy.
you don't want to miss it.
The talk about it. I don't know about the movie.
Yeah, you want to hear us talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
Bryce is gonna be back for that one if you remember Bryce.
Everyone's favorite.
But otherwise, I think that pretty much concludes the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Remember to follow us places, leave comments and questions, and we can respond to them and talk about them on our other podcast, the Virtual House Sessions, the once a month podcast that we do.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon. It's $5 a month. Please support us.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week.
Bye.